Okay, let's dive in. We're tackling a pretty common headache for home theater folks today. You know, that situation where you have a shiny new 4K source, but you're trying to feed both a 4K TV and an older 1080p display.
Right. It sounds simple, but it gets messy fast.
Exactly. So our focus for this deep dive is a specific gadget, the WolfPack 1x2 HDMI Splitter Scaler. It claims to be the fix for this exact mixed resolution setup.
And the core promise, the hook, is that it can send two different signals simultaneously from one source.
Right.
So it takes your input, sends 4K, specifically 4K at 30 hertz to your nice 4K TV. And at the same time, it sends a scaled-down 1080p signal to that older screen. It's meant to bridge that technology gap.
Okay, an integration bridge. But you mentioned specs.
Yeah. Important context right up front. This device is built on HDMI 1.4 and, crucially, HDCP 1.4.
HDCP 1.4. Okay, alarm bells might be ringing for some listeners there. We'll definitely circle back to why that's a big deal.
Definitely.
But first, mechanically, how does it manage two different pictures? One box, two outputs.
Pretty much. You've got one HDMI input, obviously, then two HDMI outputs, but they're specialized. One is labeled bypass. Its job is simple. Pass through whatever signal comes in, unchanged. So if you feed it 4K, it outputs 4K. That's for your main display.
Got it. And the second one?
That's the scaling output. This is the clever bit, or, well, the necessary bit. It always outputs 1080p.
Always, regardless of the input.
Yep. If you feed it 4K, specifically 4K at up to 30 hertz, it downscales it to 1080p, usually at 60 or 50 hertz, depending on the original signal. And if you feed it something lower than 1080p, it'll actually upscale it to 1080p. Its target is fixed.
Okay, so that guarantees the 1080p screen always gets a picture it can handle.
Exactly. It supports the common 4K resolutions like 3840 by 2160p up to 30 hertz, and even the slightly wider 49.6 by 2160p at 24 hertz.
But scaling the picture is one thing. How does the source device, like your Blu-ray player or whatever, not get totally confused? It's seeing requests for maybe 4K and 1080p simultaneously. That usually leads to, well, nothing. Black screens.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where EDID management comes in. EDID, Extended Display Identification Data. It's basically the language TVs use to tell the source what they are capable of displaying.
The digital handshake.
Precisely. And when you have two displays with very different capabilities connected via a simple splitter, that handshake data gets garbled. The source throws its hands up.
So how does this WolfPack box handle that?
It takes control of the EDID information presented back to the source. It has 16 different user-selectable EDID modes set using DIP switches on the unit.
Little physical switches.
Yeah, a bit old school, but effective. The idea is you select a mode that represents a capability set both your displays can sort of agree on, or one that prioritizes one display, ensuring the source gets stable, consistent information. It stops the confusion.
So it essentially tells the source device, don't worry about the two different TVs, just send this signal based on the mode I've set.
That's the core idea. It's designed specifically to prevent those HDCP or ED errors you get when mixing display types.
Okay, and quickly, I saw it also has audio extraction.
Right, a handy bonus feature. It can pull the audio stream out from the HDMI signal and send it out through separate connections. There's an optical SPDIF, that's the RCA type connector, and a standard 3.5mm stereo jack.
Useful for sending audio straight to an amplifier or soundbar, bypassing the TVs altogether.
Exactly.
All right, now let's get back to that HDCP 1.4 thing we flagged earlier. This feels like the potential catch, the aha moment, maybe not in a good way.
It absolutely is the critical limitation. You really need to understand this. The device is strictly HDCP 1.4 compliant, meaning it cannot process, handle, or even pass through any signal that uses the newer HDCP 2.2 copy protection standard.
And HDCP 2.2 is everywhere now, right?
Pretty much mandatory for all commercial 4K content. We're talking 4K Blu-rays, streaming services like Netflix or Disney Plus in 4K, modern cable boxes outputting UHD. They all require HDCP 2.2 from source to screen.
So if you plug your brand new 4K streamer into this WolfPack splitter, what happens? Even on the bypass port?
Black screen, no picture. Because the splitter itself cannot authenticate the HDCP 2.2 handshake. It doesn't matter that the bypass port isn't scaling, the device itself needs to be compliant in the chain.
Wow. Okay, so this device scales resolution, but it absolutely does not handle the HDCP difference.
Correct. It doesn't down-convert the copy protection standard. That's a completely different process.
So if your source is HDCP 2.2, which most modern 4K sources are, this splitter on its own, well, it won't work for that content.
Not directly, no. If you want to use this specific splitter with an HDCP 2.2 source, you must place another device before it. in the chain.
Another WolfPack device.
Yes, they recommend their separate WolfPack HDCP 2.2 to HDCP 1.4 converter. That box specifically handles the copy protection downgrade.
So the chain would be HDCP 2.2 source/HDCP converter and the splitter scaler match your TVs.
Exactly. The converter deals with the HDCP issue, outputting an HDCP 1.4 signal that the splitter can then handle and distribute.
Okay, that adds complexity and cost. Good to know.
It's the crucial detail. Without that understanding, you could buy this splitter for a modern setup and be very disappointed.
So summing up, the WolfPack 1x2 Splitter Scaler is potentially a neat solution for integrating older 1080p displays with a 4K setup if your source is older or doesn't use HDCP 2.2, or if you add that separate converter. It handles the tricky scaling and EDID management quite cleverly.
Right. Its core value proposition for video signal management in those mixed setups is sound, technically.
Well, the big takeaway here, the thing to really chew on, seems to be less about the splitter itself and more about the environment it operates in.
How so?
Well, it highlights this growing friction, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Between the necessary evolution of copyright protection, like HDTV 2.2, and the practical desire most of us have to just make our existing gear work together, even across different tech generations.
Yeah, the security standards often create these compatibility walls.
Exactly. So the final thought for you, the listener, might be, how much does the push for tighter digital security inevitably complicate or even hinder the simple act of using the technology we own? Is that friction just the price of progress? Definitely something to think about.